Students, and welcome to EDU331 Problem Solving and Assessment for AYA Math Candidates. I'm Professor Ruck. I know all of you. There are 7 of you, and I'm so excited to work with you throughout this semester. So I've canceled our first class because I get to go to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, yay, and see the sunshine, which in Steubenville was so rare. I'm just so looking forward to seeing the sun. But I am presenting on working mothers pursuing their PhD. So it's a research topic of which I was actually a research subject as well. So I completed an autoethnographic study and I'm presenting on it, and I'm excited about it. But given that we can't meet in person, so I am recording this narrated overview to break down the course to let what is our overall goal or thrust, and to also talk about what various components make up your overall grade. So this presentation is going to be in 2 parts. This first part, I just pretty much unpack the course purpose and I look at the course breakdown in terms of what percentage is allotted to each component. And then the second video, I am going to go into the Blackboard shell, particularly to show you what I want you to do this week since we're not meeting. We will use the Blackboard shell, but I pretty much will be posting copies of what we look at in class, and you will also use it to upload some written reports or presentations that you will be doing throughout the semester. But this is a face-to-face class, so Blackboard is used as a supplement. It's not our main portal for engaging in learning. So let's talk about what this class is. This class is very multifaceted. It is called Problem Solving and Assessment, and problem solving is the thrust of the course. So we look at teaching problem solving through the use of manipulatives, which is a best practice grounded in research, and you will read some research this week. You will use what you learn from manipulatives, both hands-on and then also the employment of technology. We think about calculators. They are a manipulative, and you will create a 3-lesson mini unit based on some central focus or overall theme. And we will talk about that math unit thoroughly next week, so I don't want you to worry about it at all. We also talk about the history of mathematics in 4 distinct areas: number systems, discrete math, data analysis, statistics and probability, and trigonometry. Now I know you're probably thinking, wait a minute, Professor Ruck, we take a history of math course. Yes, you do. That course also has a specific emphases, and you're going over everything in there, so it's very broad. It's also just 1 credit, so you're not able to dive deep into certain topics that are going to be really employed heavily at the secondary level. And the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics wants math teachers to have a thorough understanding of math history in 7 overarching areas. We look at 4 of them in this class, and you will look at 3 in other classes. You've already looked at and you've written a report, or you will be, for Dr. Burton in history of dealing with the history of geometry in your geometry course. And then he will be doing similar assessments of algebra and calculus in your history of math class. So these reports and or presentations that you will do are broad and they're going to be short. So I don't want you to worry about these. These are going to be papers that you're going to work on independently. And the thrust is not just to get an idea of what the history of these different topics are, but how can you integrate them into a secondary math classroom in a student-centered and engaging way. For instance, maybe having a jigsaw approach where students go to certain stations and they read about how different number systems came about, that perhaps some ancient cultures counted based on bushels because it was something relevant and practical to everyday life. And then having students read about that and then going back to their home groups and each expert sharing about the ancient number systems of different cultures, and then giving a little presentation to the class themselves. That's very appealing to your students who are more linguistic and history and literature oriented, but In itself, math history is like a manipulative insofar as it makes concrete why we have certain systems in place. Sometimes students don't realize that the first number systems came about, tally marks, simply to count up things of relevance. And then they developed from there. So it does ground and give some perspective to why we have certain representations and symbols in place. But we will do that for number systems, discrete math, data analysis, statistics, and probability, and trigonometry. And you get to do these either independently or in small groups. And you can start them right away because I have rubrics set up, and the outside reading for this class is very, very minimal. Yay! So the outside work that you will be doing will primarily be working on these little reports, and I think you're going to have fun with them. History is exciting, and again, it gives some relevance and provides answers for why things are the way they are mathematically. You've also purchased a book called Crossing the River with Dogs. It's the weirdest name ever for a math text. It does have some meaning behind it. I'm sure the author would say it has a lot of meaning behind it, but I still don't think that his rationale is that great. However, I like the book because it's grounded in Polya's different techniques for problem solving, which are going to be something that you are going to stress with your students, as it'll give them a toolkit for approaching with confidence word problems or contextualized problems, which many students struggle with, and yet they are so vital to students performing well on standardized tests and also being able to solve more complex problems in the real world. We spend half of our in-class time on working with manipulatives. That's the first half of the semester. So beginning next week all the way until about spring break, you want to bring your backpack to class. After that, you no longer bring the backpack, and instead you will bring that Crossing the River with Dogs text. However, you don't need to bring that text with you until after spring break or until I let you know otherwise. Let's talk about the grade breakdown. So when you come to class next week, you're going to bring your backpack, and we're going to go over certain manipulatives. I'll have handouts with a lot of great activities for you to look at and practice with. And we'll do that for the third week as well. And then you'll have your first test. And your first test will just pretty much be a mirror image of what we've talked about in class and how you apply those different manipulatives within activities. Then also during this time, we'll be weaving in your turning in of these math history reports, which again, you can complete independently or you can complete collaboratively. There are 7 students in this class, so we could have 2 sets of 2 and 1 set of 3. I asked if there's never any more than 3, or if 3 students want to work together and then 4 want to work independently, great. You can work independently for one, collaboratively for another. You can work with one partner for one, with another partner for the other. I'm very, very flexible. We have some student teaching candidates in this class, and they'll be going through the EdTPA process, which is rigorous and fun. Note the sarcasm. But I want to make this as doable as I can for them. And so the rest of you reap the benefits of that. So I want to let you pick, and I give you some independence there to choose how best you'd like to complete those math history papers. So you have your first 2 tests on the manipulatives. They're spaced out probably about every, well, I think there's one during week 4, then the next one is during week 7. And I have an explicit course calendar in the Blackboard shell, which we'll look at in the second presentation. And then following spring break, you have 2 tests that are over the problem solving techniques that we look at in Crossing the River with Dogs. You have 3 papers due before spring break. You have 1 due after spring break. Now I said papers, but I should correct that because I had mentioned that you'll write 3 papers, and in place of 1 paper, you will do a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation on one of those topics. So you notice there were 4. Let's say you decide you want to write a paper on numbers and number systems, and on probability and statistics, and everyone has to write one on trigonometry. We're not going to do a presentation on that because we won't have class during Easter week, and that just kind of shortened our schedule. But that leaves discrete math left over. So that means you would choose to do a presentation on discrete math. The presentations have to be collaborative. You either choose to do it with one student or with 3 students. I give specifics within the Blackboard shell, and we'll look at that in our second video. But at any rate, when you do a presentation, you're not going to hand in a paper. You're just going to present what you would have written in a paper, but that allows you to get up before the class and share what you have discovered, and just adds a more student-centered perspective to the math history component of the course. So you will write, everybody will be writing 4 reports, which they can do collaboratively or independently, and then everybody will be presenting on one math history topic. Now, what I want to mention is we're only having one presentation on numbers and number systems, so everybody can't choose that. I believe that I've said 2 students can choose that. It's first come, first serve. I would like 2 for the discrete math, and then 3 for data analysis, probability, and statistics. I believe that's how it is. I might have some of that messed up. It could go 3, 2, 2. I can't remember off the top of my head. However, everybody's only doing one presentation, and those presentations, there's going to be one of each, one on numbers and number systems, one on discrete math, one on data analysis, probability, and statistics, and they're spread throughout the term. So you need to look at the course calendar to look at the dates, because there might be one that you don't want to do a presentation on. However, the presentation is not going to take any more work than writing the paper. So just be sure to view the next video after this one and to pick a topic that would interest you perhaps for the presentation, and then the others you will write a report for. That math unit that we'll discuss next week is 20% of your grade, and then there'll be short readings on articles that I will give. Those are going to come from the Principles to Action book that I suggested, but you do not have to have bought. And I will give you copies of all of those materials, and the class discussions that we have, which will begin our classes, will come from the content you have read there, and that will contribute to 8% of your grade. So in your backpack, you have a slew of materials, and what you don't see in there are the various items that come with the backpack. So what I'd like you to do is to go to this website, which is also in the Blackboard shell, and to download the 6th through 9th grade lessons. You do not need to download the virtual manipulative lessons that come with them. Why not? The website is a little bit outdated. The virtual manipulatives are available, but they now cost money. Prior to this semester, the students were given free downloadable virtual manipulatives. I still have them through software called Active Inspire. That doesn't exist anymore. You have to buy through ETA Hand to Mind something called Class Flow, which is super cool. And the reason virtual manipulatives are particularly great is A, the teacher can demo what to do while the students work at stations or at their desks with the physical manipulatives, but it also just allows students to use manipulatives wherever they're at in any locations without having to take things with them. So I'll be able to show you what the virtual manipulatives look like, but you just won't be able to use them. But perhaps it's something you'd want to purchase once you're in the classroom. In the Blackboard shell, you're going to notice that I have a Start with Manipulatives guide. I would suggest at least downloading this, if not printing this. I will provide copies of different activities that we'll look at, but there's also a full manipulatives workbook for 6th grade in there, and then I provide links to awesome worksheets for grades 4 through 9. So what should you do next? Now that you know how your course grade will be computed, what the main portions of the course are, I want you to watch the second video, which is going to look more deeply at those math history reports and presentations. And be sure next week to bring that manipulative backpack to class and to read your 2 articles. I'll talk about what the second one is, so that we can have a great discussion on the importance of manipulative